Ramble today, and we're just going to be talking about some of the latest transfer news that's been going on in the world of football. So sit back, relax, and listen to me just talk about some of the transfers and give my thoughts and opinions on some rumours and news, because it's been a while since we did one of these and a lot has happened since we last made this video. So I want to cover quite a few bits. I want to talk about Liverpool, I want to talk about some of Arsenal signings, I want to talk United, I want to talk some stuff across Europe, Rodrigo, Bayern Munich, Osimhen. There's so many stuff, but let's get into it. And I think the best place to start here is Liverpool, because they've sort of been in the news. I would say the most recent thing, and it's a real developing story. So I need to sort of just make a disclaimer here, of course, that all of this is as I'm recording, and a lot of this is changing by the second, so I don't really know what's going to happen here. But in terms of as a recording where we're at right now, essentially Liverpool of course want a new striker, and they apparently made an approach to Newcastle for like 120 mil for Alexander Isak, but just to sort of test the waters and see if Newcastle would be willing to sell. Now before that, Newcastle apparently made a bid to Frankfurt for Gyökeres, but then it emerged then that Newcastle sort of told Liverpool, yeah, this deal's not happening, we're not selling Isak. So now Liverpool have turned their attention to Ekitike, and Liverpool are putting in bids for Ekitike around like 80 million, something like that. Nothing's been agreed as of right now. As I said, it could all change, but it does seem right now that Ekitike will probably be joining Liverpool and Isak will be staying at Newcastle. Now, I must say, when that Isak news first broke, I was thinking, oh boy, if Liverpool get Isak, then Isak and Wirtz in the same summer, that is one hell of a summer, to be fair. Like, gotta give it to them. But I did think though that it wasn't gonna happen. Like, I didn't want it to happen, but I was like, it probably won't happen. Like, I just didn't see a world where Newcastle would sell Isak. And yeah, it seems like, again, things might change, that they probably are not going to and will keep hold of him. And I think that's actually the sensible move from a Newcastle perspective, because even if Liverpool are putting 120, 130 mil down for Isak, in this striker market, like, you're gonna struggle to find a striker half as good as Isak for less than 80 mil, right? Like, we'll get on to Ekitike, but Ekitike is going to cost like 80 odd million, and let's say they sold Isak for 140, you spend like 80 million on Ekitike. That's a player who, yeah, as I said, we'll get on to, is probably a good player, could be good, but is definitely nowhere near the level of Alexander Isak and could completely flop. So like, and that's like that's over half of your budget gone there, which you've got from Isak. So I just don't see why Newcastle would sell, in terms of they don't need to sell. His contract's not running low or anything like that. They would really struggle to find a quality replacement for a reasonable fee, so they got Champions League football next season. I think Isak is probably going to stay. That's a correct decision. I also think it's perfectly fine for Isak and his career. Like, he can definitely move to a bigger club in coming years. He's still fairly young, and Newcastle, as I said, is Champions League next season. They've made some decent signings with the likes of Elanga, so yeah, I don't see a huge reason why he should be pushing to leave. From a Liverpool perspective, though, fair play, and that's definitely what the fans would want to see, sort of testing the water, see can we try and get an Isak. That's what a fan would like to see, right? And it shows great intent from Liverpool and their directors that they're trying to sign some of the best. They're trying to sign elite players. They're not sort of just saying, okay, you know what, Isak's too expensive, forget it, we'll just get someone else. They said, okay, if he's available, we'll put the money down. But if not, if he's not available, so be it. We'll move on to other targets. So that's pretty smart. Now they have moved on to Gyökeres, as I said, I believe they've done that now. I find this situation a little bit weird in terms of Newcastle put in bids for Ekitike, then Liverpool come in for Isak, and now all of a sudden, again, I don't know what's happening here, but I don't think Newcastle are going back in for Ekitike. So, like, why did Newcastle go in for Ekitike? Was that because maybe they thought they were selling Isak, but then they told Liverpool he's not for sale? So I don't really know what's going on there with Newcastle and Ekitike, but I'm just going to assume that Ekitike is going to Liverpool. And this is, I think Liverpool have done some amazing business with Gyökeres words, but this is the signing which I would say, yeah, that's probably not great. Now, it's not necessarily because I don't think Ekitike is great, it's more just, it's a huge overpay and it's a huge gamble and a huge risk. Like, Ekitike, you just don't know what you're gonna get, really. He could well come in and completely bang and be fantastic, and maybe Liverpool have stumbled upon their future number 9 for the next few years, and we'll look back on this and be like, oh wow, it was a blessing in disguise we didn't get Isak. Or it really could be a complete bust. Like, I can completely see that happening, where Ekitike just isn't maybe as good as Liverpool thought, struggles to adapt to the Prem, isn't quite ready to be the starting number 9 for Liverpool, and almost turns into like a Darwin Núñez situation where Liverpool have just spent a bunch of money on a striker who is simply not good enough to be their starting number 9, and we're going to have to go spend again, right? Like, I could see both possibilities there very easily happening, because Ekitike has had a good season last year with Frankfurt. It wasn't like it wasn't like an Isak season, for example, at Newcastle. It wasn't like a Erling Haaland when he was at Dortmund or anything like that, where you could tell, like, yeah, this is a ridiculous season. This guy is unbelievable. Like, Ekitike was good. He was very good for Frankfurt for sure, but you know, this guy didn't boast up like 30 goals or anything. He had a good season for sure. And before that, you know, he had some promising spells in his younger days in Ligue 1, but didn't have a great spell at PSG. So what I'm saying, where he's just a bit of an unknown quantity, and to spend that much money on a bit of an unknown player in terms of being a number 9 for Liverpool is a big risk and a big gamble. I don't think it's a great deal. That being said, I would say Liverpool's options are, you know, quite limited. Their hands are tied in that aspect, where if they're not going to sign Hugo Ekitike, then who else is there if Isak is not available? Because we'll get onto it, but one of the other strikers, Gyökeres, seems pretty much off the market now. Obviously, again, we'll get onto it. Victor Osimhen seems off the market as well. Joao Pedro, Liam Delap, they're off the market. Jonathan David's off the market. Like, it's really Ekitike and Benjamin Sesko are now only for 2. So it's, yeah, and Liverpool desperately because, firstly, Darwin Núñez simply not good enough and could leave. Last season they were playing Luis Diaz up top, and yeah, he did a pretty decent job, but ideally they would want an actual 9 this season. And of course, tragically, with the death of Gyökeres, that's another player who played significant minutes up top, and he's gone now, so they need someone in there. So, as I sort of conclude there, Liverpool's hands were tied in this situation. I don't think it's a great deal, but it's a gamble that could pay off, or it might not. I don't know. We'll see. Sticking with Liverpool though, I did briefly mention there Luis Diaz. Now Luis Diaz, I did want to touch on this because he has been heavily linked with Bayern Munich and Barcelona. Apparently both have come in with bids. Bayern Munich have had a couple bids rejected now. I think Liverpool want like 80 odd million for him, which is of course a lot of money. I'm not sure Bayern or Barca are willing to pay that money, but Luis Diaz apparently is open to leaving Liverpool and joining Bayern Munich and Barca, so this is one that sort of is developing, and I don't know if it's going to happen. If I had to put my money on it, I don't think it will, because I don't think Bayern or Barca will cough up the money Liverpool want. But if it did happen, I mean, I guess let's say Bayern Munich come in for like 70 mil for Diaz. Should Liverpool take it? For me, I think they definitely should. As much as I think Diaz is a good player, I think he's upgradable. I know there's not a ton of amazing wingers available out there, but I think there's wingers who are on a fairly similar level to him, and there's definitely wingers who have the potential to be better than Diaz. Like, Diaz is a good player, but he can be very frustrating. His end product is not always fair. And if I'm being completely honest, given his age and everything, do I ever see Diaz becoming like a top 3 winger in the world at any point? No. Whereas, if they sold Diaz and got someone like Rodrigo in with that money, who could be available, we'll get on to him, but do I see Rodrigo maybe one day becoming top 3 wingers in the world? Yeah, maybe. So that's what I'm saying that way. I think it would be, depending on who you get to replace him, I think Liverpool, if they get a decent fee, I would say sort of 60-65 million plus, I think you take that personally, but I don't think he'll move. I think he'll stay. Anyways, let's move on from Liverpool and let's go to Arsenal, because wow, they've been making a lot of moves recently, and we got quite a bit of catching up to do. I just want to go through all of their business because I've touched on a couple of them, but not really. Like, for example, Mendy I've not actually spoken about yet, but I think that's a pretty good signing. He's come through the door, obviously replacing Thomas Partey, who, yeah, I mean, we all know what's happened there. I mean, that situation is crazy. I don't know how he was allowed to play on, but anyways, yeah, he's replaced Partey. Norgar's come in for Jorginho, so sort of like-for-like replacements there. I think I don't have an issue with the Mendy signing. When I've seen him play for the Spanish national team, he's looked really good. Wasn't incredible for Sociedad last season, but in general the team struggled. So, and yeah, I think good player. Do I think he's gonna come in and become the best DM in the world? Probably not. And there's a bit of pressure on him to instantly come into the side and be the starting DM, but I think he'll do a pretty good job. So yeah, I don't mind that signing. Obviously, Noni Madueke, I've spoken about this before briefly on the channel in the ranking every club's transfer rumours, but I'll touch on it again. I mean, I don't really know what the logic is there. £50 million is a lot of money. It's a massive overpay for somebody who has had a couple moments, but really hasn't been able to show that he's good enough for a team like Arsenal competing for the league on a consistent basis. I think Noni is a decent player for sure. He can play right or left, will provide decent cover and decent depth. But I just don't think it was worth it. Now that being said, if we just sort of exclude the transfer fee here, I do think Madueke as a signing is not bad. Like, that's sort of what they needed, a bit of backup on the wings there. A decent player who has his moments here and there, could be a decent player to rotate and stuff. But yeah, they massively overpaid. Mascara, yeah, I think, no, not Yas, Christian Mascara, I don't even know this guy's first name, but Mascara from Valencia, I don't really know too much about him, but he's a centre-back coming in, sure, whatever. But then Victor Gyökeres seems like he is pretty much set to join Arsenal. And that is a big one, because honestly I didn't think Arsenal were going to do it in terms of signing a striker, because it felt like at one point they were just signing everybody but a striker, and it's been years. Arsenal fans have been crying out for a big striker to come in, and they haven't done it, and I thought they weren't going to do it again. But they did it, and they got Victor Gyökeres. It felt like they were going to go for Sesko, and he was like their number one choice, but I don't think that deal was possible, and they just went for Gyökeres instead, which, you know, I don't give Arsenal a lot of credit, but I will give them credit for this, fair play. Because as much as I still have my doubts over Gyökeres, in this striker market he was probably the best available, or at least top 2, top 3 best strikers available this summer. His goal scoring record in Portugal is absolutely outrageous. He did well in the Champions League. He's not too young, like he's got a decent amount of experience, so fairly proven. Now my doubts about him are, of course, he's unproven at this level. Like, the Portuguese league is an okay league, but it is one thing doing it in the Portuguese league and then doing it in another league, right? Like, just ask Darwin Núñez. And that pressure of coming in as the main man, the striker, to lead Arsenal, he's a final piece of a jigsaw to lead them to the title. I don't know how he'll deal with it, right? Like, that's a lot of pressures on his shoulders. Now maybe he'll do well, maybe he'll grumble on it, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think it's a good signing, and if it does bang, if Gyökeres does handle the pressure, if he is able to translate his goal scoring from Portugal into the Prem, well, then Arsenal have just signed potentially the man who could actually be the difference maker in giving them the Premier League title. So yeah, Arsenal, I think it's a good signing. I think they should be excited, their fans, about it. We'll see how he does. But yeah, I do have to hold my hands up here and say fair play. I think Arsenal's business in general has been really good so far. I think if they can sign another attacker like an Eze or someone, then yeah, Arsenal are all set to be challenging for the Premier League title this season. I really do think so. As much as I would rather not say that, I do think their signings have been great. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to Man United, because now United actually haven't been in the news, but that's what I want to talk about, because I've just sort of found it baffling to me, this whole United situation, because how are you telling me that pre-season has begun, and in the year that was meant to be the clear out, the rebuild, the reset for United after their worst ever season in God knows how long, they enter pre-season with 1 signing and 0 sales? Like, can someone explain that in the comments? Like, I just find that crazy to me. They've made 1 signing in Matheus Cunha, and they haven't sold a single person. Like, they've let some, like, of note, like Garnacho's still there, Rashford's still there, Anthony's still there, Malassia's is still there, Sancho's still there, Højlund's still there. The list could go on. Like, what is going on? Seriously, United fans, let me know in the comments how you're feeling, because it can't be good, right? If I was a United fan, I would be fuming about the scenario. And they've spent about 2 months now trying to sign Brian Mbeumo. Like, what on earth is going on there? It's the most United summer possible, really. Like, new directors, new owners, it's the same old problems. They spent the entire summer just fascinating over one player, haggling over a fee in the end just to pay what the club wanted in the first place, or not even get them. Like, how many times have we seen this script? Remember the first time they tried to sign Jadon Sancho? Spent the entire summer just haggling over the fee, and then in the end Dortmund said, forget about it, you're not getting him. Had to wait an entire year again just to sign the player for pretty much the same fee which they were quoted the year before. Same thing happened in Ten Hag's first season. Remember, they spent the entire summer trying to sign Frenkie de Jong, didn't get the deal over the line. First game of the season starts, they start panicking, like, damn, who are we gonna sign here? We can't get De Jong anymore, and we just splash a bunch of money on Casemiro as a panic buy. And now it's happening with Brian Mbeumo now, where they have spent about 2 months now trying to sign Brian Mbeumo. Like, this is how mad it is. Matheus Cunha was signed very early in the window. At the point where they tried to sign Cunha, I'm pretty sure they submitted their first bid for Brian Mbeumo around the same time. And we are now 2 months later at the start of pre-season, and I don't even think the second bid has been made for Mbeumo, and they haven't made a single signing. Like, what is going on there? Why are they spending so long? Just cough up the money. Brentford are not going to drop their asking price or move on to other targets, right? And there's other areas of the squad that need addressing fast. They need to try and get rid of all of that dead wood too. Like, Man United yet again are just a mess, and they are entering the season in a very bad spot yet again, and it's just a thought I sort of had. But yeah, let's move on. I just want to talk about some other stuff that's really been going on in terms of transfers. These are sort of just going to be brief points, but Jordan Henderson is back in the Premier League. He's joined Brentford. A really interesting move from Brentford there. A little bit of experience in the squad. I actually don't mind it. After losing Norgard, a player like Henderson to come in is really good. It's sort of what they need in a young squad. Going through a bit of a rebuild with a new manager, of getting an experienced head in, it's not bad. And by all accounts, Jordan Henderson did pretty well at Ajax, so I still think he has something to give in the Premier League. So I don't mind that signing. There's this whole situation with Gibbs White and the appeal, and I don't know what on earth is going on there. I'll wait and see what's going on there, but Gibbs White might be going to Spurs. Nicholas Jackson. Apparently Chelsea are now open to selling him, which, thank God. Yeah, I mean, now that we've got Joao Pedro and Liam Delap, I think if we get a decent offer for Jackson, I think we take it, right? I wouldn't be actively looking to sell him, to be fair, and I don't think that's what we're trying to do. I think we're just open to a decent offer. But Jackson has now become sort of replaceable and a dispensable part of a project, which I'm more than happy about. But I'm also happy to keep Jackson. I'm happy to keep him, but if we get a good offer, I'd love to cash in on him. Victor Osimhen, who I mentioned earlier, really disappointing. Looks like he's joining Galatasaray again. If they can agree to fee, they've been sort of doing a United here and haggling around with Napoli. I'm really disappointed with this one because, look, I know Osimhen loves Galatasaray, had a great loan there, and it's no disrespect to Galatasaray whatsoever, but I really thought Osimhen could go on to become one of the best strikers in the world. I thought he could be the starting striker for a Barca, for an Arsenal, for a Liverpool, for these clubs who are looking for strikers this summer. I thought Osimhen could make that jump, but it looked like he wants to go to Galatasaray, and yeah, that's a little bit disappointing, to be honest. A little bit of a waste of a career, in my opinion, because I do think Osimhen can go right to the top, but yeah, I guess he's going to Galatasaray, although, hey, they've got Sane, if they get Osimhen back, Galatasaray might be cooking next season. Also another striker on the move, actually talking of Turkey, John Duran is in Fenerbahce, which again, I mean, this guy's had a crazy career. He's played in the MLS, he's played in Saudi, he's played in the Turkish league. What on earth is going on with his career? Evan Ferguson could be joining Roma, which is pretty interesting. That would be a really fun move to get his career back on track. Speaking of Serie A, Ademola Lookman could be joining Inter, which again is a pretty interesting move. Don't really know where he's going to play, but okay. I also wanted to touch on the Rodrigo situation because, yeah, Rodrigo looks like he might be leaving Real Madrid after just seemingly fell out of favour now with Xabi Alonso at the Club World Cup. Now, my opinion on Rodrigo, I think is actually different to a lot of people, where I do think Rodrigo has a lot of talent, of course, and could become a great player, I think, but I do think he gets slightly overhyped in terms of, you know, he's really been a moments guy around Madrid. He's never been able to show his ability on a truly consistent basis at Madrid. It's always been moments. Now, his moments have been fantastic, granted, but it would still be a little bit of a risk if a club signed him like an Arsenal or Liverpool, because of the fact, you know, Rodrigo's never put up like 20 goals in the league, or at least from what I know, in a season. Which is something you would want from a player, like if you're going to spend like 80 odd million to sign him. But that being said, yeah, I do think Rodrigo's a great player. I just think, you know, a lot of people are like, oh man, we need to sign Rodrigo all over the price. I'm like, okay, chill out. Like, good player for sure, but you know, it's not like you're signing Yamal here. It's not like you're signing Vinny or Mbappe. Like, Rodrigo's a very good player, but I don't know. I don't think he'll move though. I do think he'll stay at Real Madrid for another year, and sort of just see what happens. Because I don't think a club is going to come in with the money Real Madrid would want to sell him. Like, I think Real Madrid would want like 90 odd million, maybe even more, to sell him, and I don't think a club's paying that. So, yeah. I think that's pretty much everything covered. Yeah. So, those are my thoughts on the latest transfer news. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed, please do leave a like.